as the United States gears up for a military attack on Syria that it claims is justified by, quote, undeniable evidence that Bashar al-Assad launched the chemical weapons attack in the Damascus suburb of Ghouta last week. A bombshell article by Associated Press correspondent Derail, who also worked for NPR and writes for the BBC, reveals that the rebels have admitted that they were responsible for the casualties as a result of that chemical weapons attack last week. And the question is, will the mainstream media bury what could be a story that may derail this march to war? Now, here's my version of the story at Infowars.com, and here's the original at Mint Press News by Associated Press correspondent Derail. Mint Press News, their website, has since gone down because of the bombardment of traffic they've received as a result of this link spreading. So she visited the areas around Damascus, Ghouta, where this chemical weapons incident took place. She spoke to the militants, to the rebels involved in fighting in that area, who told her that they were given chemical weapons by Saudi Arabia, specifically by Prince Bandar bin Sultan, who is the intelligence chief, the Saudi intelligence chief. He ordered the delivery of weapons via a Saudi militant to these Syrian rebels in Ghouta. They were initially intended to be given to Jabhat al-Nusra, which of course is the Al-Qaeda group that's fighting, that's commanding the Syrian rebels who have pledged allegiance to Jabhat al-Nusra, who in turn pledged allegiance to Al-Qaeda. So the Saudis delivered the weapons, or intended to deliver the weapons, to Jabhat al-Nusra. They got into the hands of the actual lower level rebels who had no training on how to handle these deadly chemical weapons. There was an accident, an explosion, and that caused all the horrific casualties that you saw in the YouTube videos last week. That's what Associated Press correspondent, 20-year veteran in the Middle East, NPR BBC writer Derail says Syrian rebels told her in this bombshell article. And as one of the rebels told her, quote, "We were very curious about these arms, and unfortunately some of the fighters handled the weapons improperly and set off the explosions." Another female fighter named Kay also told Gavlak, "They didn't tell us what these arms were or how to use them. We didn't know they were chemical weapons. We never imagined they were chemical weapons." Then she quotes Abu Abdel Monim, a father of one of the rebels, who said, "My son came to me 2 weeks ago asking what I thought the weapons were that he had been asked to carry, describing them as having a tube-like structure while others were like a huge gas bottle." And he names the Saudi militant who provided the weapons as Abu Ashaya. And according to Monheim, this father of one of the rebels, the weapons, improperly handled, exploded inside a tunnel, killing 12 of the rebels instantly, and then causing the wider chemical weapons incident, which of course injured and killed hundreds of people, as you saw in the videos. But this story is bombshell. The rebels have basically accepted responsibility for causing an attack which is being blamed on the Syrian president by the Obama administration as a precursor to Tomahawk cruise missile attacks, which could start a massive war in the Middle East. It's based on completely false pretenses. If this story is accurate, we don't know, because the media has refused to even mention it so far today, even though it's been out since yesterday. Absolute bombshell claims, and what makes it all the more credible is Derail. Here's a picture of her. 20-year veteran Middle Eastern correspondent for the Associated Press. She's written for Salon, she's written for BBC, she's done work for NPR. Completely credible. This is not some random blogger that's made up some claims. She's a credible journalist. She went to the areas affected. She talked to the militants who admitted being behind the chemical weapons attack. So here's, again, Derail writing for Salon.com. Of course, reprints of the Associated Press showing that she works for the Associated Press. To be clear, the Associated Press have not covered this article. This is an independent organisation of which Dale Gavlak works for, called Mint Press, which itself, if you read a Minnesota Post profile on the organisation from last year, is a credible news organisation. They've got offices in Minnesota. They've got several full-time accredited journalists, and this profile basically makes it clear that they're a very legitimate news organisation. Mint Press, which is where the original story featured, that website is now down because of the traffic, but Mint Press, completely credible. Dale Gavlak, Associated Press, BBC, NPR, completely credible reporter, saying that she spoke to these rebels who admitted carrying out the chemical weapons attack, or at least mishandling the chemical weapons, causing the accident that led to the chemical weapons casualties. Here's Dale Gavlak writing for the BBC, again proving that she's completely credible journalist. She's worked for major news organisations in the recent past on Middle East affairs. Here's an article again from Dale Gavlak for the Associated Press from February of this year, talking about the destruction of Syrian antiquities. So, the source is credible. This isn't some tinfoil hat conspiracy theory blog making up claims. Seasoned, respected mainstream journalist went to the affected areas where the chemical weapons incident in Syria took place last week, talked to the rebels involved in the fighting there, who admitted that they were responsible for causing the accident that led to the chemical weapons incident, which has been blamed, of course, on Bashar al-Assad and used to grease the skids for war. She also points out in the article, which is something that InfoWars reported on a couple of days ago as well, the warning, the threat by Prince Bandar of Saudi Arabia, the head of their intelligence, to Vladimir Putin, that if Putin did not abandon his support for the Syrian president, Saudi Arabia would direct the Chechen terrorists that are under his control to attack the Russian Winter Olympics in Sochi next year. He said, I give you a guarantee to protect the Winter Olympics next year. The Chechen groups that threaten the security of the games are controlled by us. He told Putin, we control the terrorists. If you back off Syria, we won't direct them to attack. Again, absolutely bombshell revelation. It was reported on by the Telegraph. Didn't get anything like the attention it deserved. But again, it's made reference to in this article because Gavlak accuses the Saudis, and this is what the rebels told her, of providing the chemical weapons in Ghouta to the Syrian rebels. Of course, it was reported earlier this week by Foreign Policy, we covered it in this article, that the intelligence intercepts in the hours after the chemical weapons attack last week revealed that the Syrian Ministry of Affairs of Defense was making panicked phone calls demanding answers from their chemical weapons depot about the attack in Ghouta. So the question was, if they had ordered the attack, if they knew about it and they had ordered it, why are they making panicked phone calls to the chemical weapons department demanding answers? Makes no sense whatsoever if they were behind the attack. It was subsequently in the New York Times, US intelligence officials admitting that there was no smoking gun linking Assad to the attack. And then separately, US officials told the Associated Press that the intelligence that Assad was behind the attack was, quote, no slam dunk. So they didn't have the evidence. It was not undeniable. And whatever evidence they present today, it looks like, is going to be basically fraudulent, phony, just as it was prior to the invasion of Iraq with the whole weapons of mass destruction circus. So the question is, will the mainstream media cover a bombshell news story, one of the biggest stories of the year, that the rebels, the Syrian rebels, the Western-backed rebels, admit they were responsible for the chemical weapons attack last week? It was not ordered by Bashar al-Assad. Will the media cover this? There's only been one other story about it a couple of hours ago. Voice of Russia reported on it. Apart from that, despite the fact that it's been out yesterday, and despite the fact that it was written by a credible Associated Press 20-year veteran Middle Eastern correspondent, Dale Gavlak, still absolutely nothing from the mainstream media. So I've sent it to The Guardian. I've reached out to Dale Gavlak, try and get her on the Alex Jones show. You know, I've sent out messages on Facebook, Twitter, urging people to contact the media, get them to cover this. Will they cover a story that could derail the entire march to war, that could scupper the attack on Syria that threatens to inflame the whole region? Syrian rebels admit they were behind the chemical weapons attack. Will the media cover this bombshell story? This is Paul Joseph Watson reporting for Infowars.com.